Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, you're looking at Brent Pittman, who is he's quite a guy. He's doing something that, is a lot of people would say, why do I want to sell anything in the funeral world? Well, Brent really puts it in a beautiful way, and I want you to listen to him as we talk. He is really the family service manager for Dignity Memorial Funeral Homes and Neptune Memorial Reef. So, Brent, we were talking before, and it is an interesting occupation.
It is. It's what I would describe as the unknown profession, and I use that term. It probably is the best way to describe it. I ask many people, as being here in Southeast Florida, how many people are truly from South Florida? Myself, I'm from the Northeast, New Jersey. We actually just had that conversation. So it kind of falls into explaining that unknown professional. When many of us, if we've moved here or moved anywhere in our lives, when you move, what's the first thing you begin doing? You got to find a realtor. You got to find a professional in the real estate world to help you find a place to live. And then you begin filling in the other professions. The other professions needs doctors, lawyers, dentists. You need to fill in those professionals, because when something happens, you get an ache or a pain, you get a toothache, you have the professional to go to. But unfortunately, I call us the unknown professional because when something happens, typically speaking, we're the last people that people ever think to call. And it's at that time in life's most difficult moment that they're struggling to find answers to questions that we really should have addressed much sooner in life.
And we talked about this before the show, because I remember that my parents and my grandparents, the first thing they did was they got everything tied up. They got a cemetery plot. They knew exactly what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference?
Well, I think some of it is the way society today, we're a little bit more transient, meaning that we move around more. Years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when my grandparents came to America, up in the Philadelphia area, they bought plots for them, for their children, for their children's children, and they created that so that family would all be together. Well, yeah, that's where everyone lived, in that small little cluster. Maybe you lived a town away or two towns away, or you lived across the GW there, or the Ben Franklin, depending on what part of New Jersey you're from, and you're close. Well, I have family in New Jersey, I have family in Pennsylvania, I live here in Florida. We're all spread out more. So as far as, being that proximity, I think people have become a little less likely to plan for future generations, because that fear of, well, we're down here and we're not up there, so, we'll do our own thing. We'll plan for ourselves and not for future generations, which, there's a lot of drawbacks to that, because that leaves so many unanswered questions open. And I truly wish that my parents would have planned a little bit more for that when that time came, because I found myself in a situation with my mother passing when I was 12. And my father had to make all these arrangements, and we had a family member who had another space, and my mother was laid to rest. But there were things that were never addressed, which was where my father may be, or would he want to be near my mother? And my mom's between my uncle and my other cousin. So
yeah, it is hard, but there's something that Dignity Memorial did that's brilliant. It answers that question. Reefs. Everybody wants to just cremate and put my ashes out in the ocean. Talk about what your company does.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. With cremation becoming so much more widely accepted, and a chosen means of disposition. There's always been the thing of, well, just, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, this goes to all us guys, and I'll speak for myself, and my father said it too up until the day he passed, well, just take me out back and throw me out there, bury me with the dog,
right,
or take me to the ocean and scour me.
Exactly.
But, doing that is our human nature way of kind of trying to pass over it. It doesn't answer the questions, and the other part of that is when we do that, there is no place of permanent memorialization. There's no lasting memorial to visit or any place for our generations to come, because once you have scattered a loved one, or gone out to sea and done some form of that, they don't have a lasting memorial. And I can ask every person when they bring that up, I ask them, did you ever carve your initials into a tree, or did you ever write your initials into cement? And many people say, yeah, I did it, but I don't know why. It's because the human race has an inner desire to always want to be remembered. So the Neptune Memorial Reef, to get kind of back on track and not to chase a white rabbit.
No, that's good, because it's important.
The Neptune Memorial Reef is a artistic representation of what the artist who designed and created the reef believes the lost city of Atlantis would look like.
Wow, I never knew this.
Yeah, and so it has archways, columns, roadways, feature sculptures. There's right now at the main entrance there's a lion, and so this whole reef, artificial reef, has been created. It's right off Key Biscayne here in Southeast Florida. It's 3.5 miles off the coast, and it's actually become a major dive site and attraction throughout the world. People from all over the world have come to dive it. Some interesting facts about it. This part of where it was, it's been developed, when it is fully constructed, will encompass over 16 acres of once barren ocean floor. The phases that have already been developed and deployed, where we're actively deploying and memorializing loved ones who have chosen the reef as a final resting place, from 2007 to 2016, when they did the survey, has already created a habitat of over 7,000 species of marine life.
That was my next question, because now you really are doing something very creative and important. But let me ask you, so what do you do with the remains?
To be a part of the column, there are also feature molds where there's starfish, seashells, coral. They have a stingray and a sea turtle right now. We do have a resident sea turtle who is on the reef, a green turtle. His name is Crush, i.e. everyone from Nemo. And they are working on some other types of feature placements. But currently all the feature placements that they have, we want it to be very naturalistic. So we're looking for, whether it's a sand dollar or a stingray, or that is when you look down from the top of the ocean, or when you dive down, you would find that creature or that the starfish in their natural form. So that's why they're not standing straight up.
Okay.
But to go back,
this is too exciting. I want to, before I forget.
I'm sorry. I'm very.
No, I want you to do this, because I would never have thought this was going to be part of this. I love this. My question is, can we get some sort of a picture or maybe a video, and we'll put it on our website? I think it's so interesting.
That is not a problem. I do have a video that I can share on the website. And anyone watching, if you'd like to look, if you just go online to Neptune Memorial Reef, or even Google it on YouTube, the Neptune Reef's been featured on Discovery Channel, the Travel Channel. There's been a lot of different coverage of it over the years, because it's the only one of its kind in the world. Going back to the size of it, once it is completed being 16 acres, a lot of people have said it's probably going to be one of the next wonders of the world, being so large.
Okay, so Brent, why would anyone, and I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, why would you want to be buried under the ground when you could be buried there in the sea?
Well, if cremation has not been something that you have accepted as a way to, and when that time came in your life, we can't place a full body burial on the reef. Unfortunately, it can only be for those who have chosen cremation. But one of the other great parts also is, even if someone had been laid to rest in a traditional burial, in a ground burial, and they have other family members on the reef, we do have places on the reef where we can add a memorial plaque. We've actually had a couple that loves to dive the reef all the time. The gentleman proposed to his wife by purchasing a plaque saying, "Will you marry me?" and it's on the reef.
Oh, please. You are getting me so excited, especially it's going to be Valentine's Day, our next issue.
Listen,
we got to really talk about this issue.
I'm very passionate about it because I love the ocean. I love the ocean myself. Me and my wife, that's how we met at the beach. But both me and my wife, we have our places on the reef. And when I made those arrangements, I came home and told her I got us waterfront property, but we can't go there for a very long time.
You're terrific.
It really is. It's a way of life after life, and that's the way we like to look at it. It's giving life after our time has come, and really providing a way for the ocean and the sea life to flourish.
Okay, so let's go back, because you know you have my vote of approval. I love this thing, and we're going to do something about it. But let's move back. So someone comes up to you, goes to your sales rep, whatever they are, the counselors, and they need to buy something. They want to buy in advance. You know, let's say no one has passed away yet. They want to buy everything in advance. How do you talk to them to know which one that they want?
Well, it's really sitting down and having an honest conversation. And all of my advisors will sit with individuals and families. Majority of the time we are meeting in their homes, you know, to make it as comfortable as we can. Again, it's not something, like I said, it's the elephant in the room that no one wants to look at. But to really sit down and to go over the options. Oftentimes, though, whether it's for a traditional service or for cremation, that's typically something that whoever we're meeting with, they've already had that in their mind. They've already decided that. We can guide them through the process and the options and the things that can be done to make it a true celebration of their life. There's nothing cookie cutter about this, of what we do. There's no, this is, if you're being cremated, this is what you have, and if you're being laid to rest in a traditional burial, this is what you have. It's all unique in the options, and we really explore how we can make it truly unique and a lasting memorial for that loved one.
And I went on your website before this interview, and I really scoured it and looked at it. And the one thing that came across to me was even the person who invented the company called Dignity.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the most important thing, the dignity of someone's life. They passed, you know, no matter if they were great or they weren't so great, how you're going to remember them. And it sounds like, I don't know, how old is Dignity? Is it a long time? Been around?
Kind of put me on the spot.
Well,
here.
is it over 20 years?
Oh yeah, I think we're right around 47 years.
Okay,
or so.
so it's been an established company.
Yes. Share a little bit about Dignity Memorial, if I may.
Yes, please.
Dignity Memorial is a part of a network of over 2,400 funeral homes and cemeteries. Rarely there's a place you can throw a stone that you don't find where we have a representation. And as that network grows, so do the benefits for our families and individuals who have made pre-arrangements with us. As I mentioned before, I said, you know, a lot of society today does move around more than they did generations ago. And when something has been put in place, if you were to move, those arrangements follow you and will be honored at another one of our facilities. And there's no additional cost to that.
That's great. We have quite a few people watching you right now.
Oh.
So just smile for the camera.
No problem. Hopefully my wife's on there. You know.
I don't see her name. It's
No.
okay. But anyway, so you have it all figured out in a way. But what about if someone dies very, you know, unexpectedly? That's probably, you know, it's an immediate situation.
Yes, and we're there for our families both ahead of time and at the time of need. It's at that time where we're able to meet with the funeral director. The families will meet directly with that director at that time, and that's when hopefully there have been some discussions. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's been some planning, but you know, for those that have been through in that situation where it's been sudden and nothing's been discussed, I can fair to guess that there were some questions that were left unanswered, and that's what we want to avoid. You know, our role, my advisors, is to truly educate people on the steps that they can take to protect the ones they love most in the world and in life. And it's some simple steps, you know. I mean, if
so what are some of the steps?
Well, some of the steps is talking about it, is reflecting on what is important to you and why we want it, why we need to do this, and why we should do this. Second step is recording it, writing it down, documenting it in a form, and the next two steps get pretty easy from there. We've talked about it. We know what we want to do. The third is to secure it and put it in place so that it's not only in place but also financially supported so that costs never go up. And then the fourth is to share it with the ones we love. Because the one thing we never would want is to have something in place, them to not know about it and find it after they've done something.
It may not be an appropriate time to say this, but I have seen where, because things weren't agreed on ahead of time, the family members get involved, and this one wants the. Your eyes are going up because I saw that happen. No, he wouldn't want it. No, we're going to do it this. I mean, this was horrible. It broke up families.
Yes, it has. You know, it's one thing that it just echoes in our company with Dignity Memorial. But I have seen families torn apart, unfortunately. I've had it over the years as I've been through different areas and managing other advisors. I've had advisors that I've overseen who they didn't talk to family members for 10, 15 years because of something like that. And, you know, that's hard to hear. Yeah. And it all could have been avoided if some things had been discussed. Now, I'm not saying that all family troubles could ever be avoided at that time, because we all grieve differently. But to hear a family that hasn't talked, two brothers that haven't talked for years because they couldn't agree on what a loved one would have wanted, a parent would have wanted, that's
yeah, it's sad. But I just want everyone to know this, that Brent Pittman is the family service manager with Dignity Memorial Funeral Homes and Neptune Memorial Reef, and he, you know, I never know when I'm going to interview them, but you know, when you think about funerals, it's like, okay, what am I going to say? This has been just joyful, and I thank you very much about this. But I do have another question. What if someone has passed away, yeah, and they were buried in some way, whatever it was, cremated, and they want to buy one of these plaques? Can anyone do that?
Anyone can, on the Neptune Memorial Reef, anyone can purchase a plaque.
Is it expensive?
No, very, very inexpensive. Maybe ballpark, maybe it's just under $600. That includes the plaque, the placement, a picture of the plaque, and anytime there's a placement on the Neptune Reef, once the placement has been done, whether just a plaque or the placement of a loved one's lasting memorial containing their cremated remains, pictures sent, the longitude and latitude is sent also on that so that anyone could dive. I said, look, my family just has to put their bathing suit on to come visit me. So
this is just unusual. We have to focus in on this. I want to do a whole article. I want to do a bunch of stuff in Boomer Times because I love this kind of thing. I think this is gorgeous, and maybe even on the cover what we could do is put a bunch of beautiful fish, mm-hmm, and with maybe a couple of plaques and people. I'd like to do something. I think it's really important.
I'd love to help you put something like
that
together.
Well, let's talk about that afterwards, but this is really great. So if someone now wants to really talk to whether you or one of your sales counselors, the way you're going to do it is you're going to go to the website is dignitymemorial.com. And I can assure you, after talking to Brent and understanding what he said, he really knows what he's going to do for you. But I do have a strange question about wills. People have their wills, mm-hmm, and I don't remember, even in our will, anything about how you want to be buried. Because I ought to talk to my elder law attorney and talk to him about doing something like this.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up. Wills are important. I encourage everyone to have a will, to have a living will. Many of us also can recall back to Terry Schiavo, I believe it was, and how important a living will could be. But a will, let me ask you this. Where's your will, your copy that you have?
Well, I have one in my file, and my lawyer has one.
Okay, so if something happened to you, no matter what day of the week and time, your family could get a hold of that copy, right?
Yes.
Okay, because oftentimes people can't get to it.
They can't, you're right.
Or they don't know where it is.
You're right.
Right? So what happens is, in those cases, is even having a will, it's important to have a will and to state these things, but what will happen is a passing occurs. The family calls the funeral home, they come in, they don't find the will till a month later. Funeral has already taken place.
Exactly.
The burial or the cremation's already taken place.
I see.
And now they
so we have it in the will. It wouldn't really mean anything, would it?
The will is important also for other things such as possessions and things like that.
Of course, but what should someone do, Brent? Just tell their family. Let's say they want to be buried in the Dignity Memorial Reef. They say, "Hey, listen, I just did this, and I want you all to know it." Right?
Well, it's the first step is to put it in place and to work with an advisor who can help you select a place on the reef that works with your wishes in an area of the reef that you enjoy, whether a feature placement or exclusive placement, and then put that in place. And then anytime an arrangement is made, our family receives a copy and a card at time of need, emergency cards. It's not just having your arrangements in place locally. We also provide services that if something happened to you while away from home, if you were outside of your, the immediate area, if I'm on vacation and something happened to me, well, how would I get back here?
Right.
A lot of people go on cruises, and cruises, unfortunately, people do pass away. They don't keep you on the boat until you get back. It's when they hit the next port, and now the family has to face that. And I've heard, oh, well, this credit card company will take care of it. No, they'll take care if you get ill and are hospitalized. You can buy insurance each time around, but what if you could do it one time and have it for the rest of your life, no matter where in the world? And to share a quick story, I had a family that unfortunately, if they would have had this, it would have helped the spouse tremendously. Her husband did pass on a cruise in Greece. And just to ask you a question, since we've been going back and forth a little bit, how long do you think it took to bring a loved one back from Greece? And how much do you think it cost?
A lot, because you're talking about, get immigration, you're talking about bringing the person back, making sure everything happened, and you don't have a place in Dignity doesn't have a place in Greece, so they had to figure out how to get in touch with Dignity. 30 days?
6 weeks.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
6 weeks of the person had to stay there with the body, probably, or
that was almost $10,000 to bring her back.
Terrible.
Now this was several years ago, so and it was just one case that stuck out in my mind because one of my advisors had gone over everything with the family a couple weeks prior to the trip, and that's why they said, oh, well, don't worry, our credit card company will cover it. And I felt so horrible where if we could have better explained it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job on this. I mean, I've learned. Listen, I've been around, as a gerontologist, I've been around a long time dealing with a lot of these issues, but this is all new. So now one more. I have these always weird questions.
All right.
Everyone loves their pets. So could they have their pet's ashes or their name put on the plaque at the Reef?
So then on the Neptune Memorial Reef,
yeah.
One of the most beautiful things about it, and again, we all love our pets, because it is located out in the ocean in international waters. We are permitted to, if a loved one is being placed onto the reef with their cremated remains, they can include 1 or 2 pets, depending on the size of the pet. There's no additional cost for the pet to be included with them. Now, if we're just placing the pet by themselves, there is a charge for that, but
But they could have a plaque. So let's say someone...
Just a plaque?
Yeah, plaque. I'm talking about a plaque.
Yep.
You could have your pet's plaque there.
Yep.
I'm usually very excited anyway, but this is blowing my mind. I'm so thrilled with this. But let's just go back to this. So now the nice part is your company is creating a wonderful environmental asset.
Mm-hmm.
And all people can go and they can actually, if they dive, they can go down and see it. But you probably even have those glass-bottom boats. It may be too deep for someone to see it.
It depends on the time of year, the water clarity. The reef ranges in depth from at its most shallow point at 15 feet below the surface to 40 feet below the surface. And again, that can vary based upon tides and stuff. But it is an area that on a very clear day you can see parts of it while snorkeling. But to really take in the beauty of the reef and the underwater life and that, it's more of a diving or scuba. And there's a lot of scuba places in the area down there that do trips there as one of their stops. And another thing that we can do for a family that is when their loved one deployment is taking place for their loved one, we can help them coordinate with. We have a dive company that they can dive with us when we deploy and place their loved one on the reef.
I was thinking, I had a celebration of when my husband passed away in a theater, but they could have the celebration right on the ship, the boat or whatever, right?
Well,
and
there's a private charter that will help them charter. That will take them out. They can have a service there. They can dive with them. There's a lot of things. See, here's the one thing I've learned in my life is that you don't know unless you ask, right? And it doesn't hurt to ask. Again, I've been told no many times. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But before the word no was ever used in my vocabulary or anyone that I help, we're going to find out and double check and triple check to see if it is possible, because a lot of times there may be a way to
you just
facilitate.
didn't ask. Or didn't ask someone like you, because you seem like you're a creative person, and you will, if they want it, you'll figure out how to do it.
It's not. I'm not saying we can always do something
understand.
and honor, but we may be able to find some way to facilitate a middle ground in that. And as I said, anything's possible. You just have to take a different look at it.
Well, I want everyone to know, because we've been talking about the BOOMER Expo, which is coming up. I want everyone to know that you can go there and see Dignity Memorial. They will have a booth there, and I'm sure you will have some pictures and things on the reef.
Oh yeah,
Yes!
We're gonna have at the our display, our table area. We're actually gonna have a sample or two of what some of the feature placements. I'm not sure if it's going to be a sea turtle or if it's going to be a starfish or a seashell.
I love this.
But we will have a sample. It's purely a sample, and some other things in literature.
We are going to do something on this in Boomer Times. I have to tell you, I am so thrilled. Thank you for taking your time and coming here, and we'll see everybody at the Boomer Expo.
Thank you very much.